Communicative language teaching, or CLT, is exactly what it sounds like, teaching language through communication. It's all about helping the learner use the language in real-life situations, not just in a textbook. Now, to really understand what CLT is, it helps to look at how language used to be taught. In the past, methods like grammar translation or the audio-lingual approach were more common. So these focused on a lot on learning vocabulary, grammar rules, and doing structured exercises, which definitely has value. I know for me, when I was learning French in school, that's mostly what we did. We practiced verb tenses, we memorized words, and we did a lot of writing. But CLT takes things a step further. Instead of just focusing on how the language works, it focuses on how to use it, to interact, to express yourself, and to understand others. It shifts the goal from just getting the right answer to actually being able to communicate in everyday situations. That's where the idea of communicative competence comes in, which I'll explain more in a minute. But basically, it's about knowing how to use language appropriately in different social and cultural contexts. Now that we've discussed a little bit about what CLT is, let's get into one of the key ideas behind it, communicative competence. I actually have a visual I'm going to use here. So it's a graph that shows the chronological evolution of communicative competence. And you'll see at the beginning it starts with Noam Chomsky, then it goes to Himes, then it goes to Canale and Swain, Canale again, and finally Celsia Marcia. It's really helpful because it shows the idea of what it means to know a language has changed over time. So let me walk you through it real quick. So first we have Chomsky. So Chomsky talked about linguistic competence, which is basically grammar and sentence structure, and that's where it all started. Then we have Del Himes. And Del Himes came in and he said, wait, knowing grammar isn't enough. You also need to understand how language works in real life. So he added sociolinguistic competence, which is all about using language appropriately in different situations. Next, Canale and Swain built on that and they added grammatical competence. So grammatical competence is linguistic competence. And they also added strategic competence, which means using strategies to keep a conversation going when you don't know a word or when the communication breaks down. And then next, sociolinguistic competence. A few years later, Canale added one more to the list, discourse competence, which is all about connecting ideas together clearly across sentences, like in a conversation or in a story. And finally, we have Celsia Marcia and her team, and they expanded on the model even more. Their version includes linguistic competence, which is essentially grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation, strategic competence, sociolinguistic competence, actional competence, which is basically knowing how to do specific things with the language. So like apologizing, inviting someone, complaining, or making suggestions. And finally, discourse competence. So when we say communicative competence, we're talking about a full set of skills that help someone actually use a language to communicate, not just perfectly formed sentences, but to also express themselves and react appropriately and interact naturally in different situations. And this is the whole idea of what CLT is built on. Now, when we look at a classroom, how would we actually see CLT being used? Like, what would it look like in real life? Well, for one, we'd probably see a lot of role plays, students simulating real-life situations. For example, there might be pretending to go to a restaurant and taking turns as a server and a customer and practicing how to order a meal. That way they're learning not just vocabulary and grammar, but they're also learning how to interact in a real-world setting. We'd also see things like information gap activities, where learners each have different pieces of information and they need to communicate with each other to complete the task. So they might be looking at a map where some locations are missing and they have to ask the questions and give directions to figure it out. That helps build not just on their language skills, but also in their communication strategies, like how to clarify, ask questions, or explain something. Other things might include interviews and surveys where students talk to each other to gather information, or discussion and debate activities that push them to express their opinions, agree or disagree politely, and respond to others in the moment. There's also a strong focus on using authentic texts. So instead of just textbook dialogue, students might be working with real emails or advertisements, or menus, or even video clips. Then they can break those down, talk about them, use them as models for their own language. So really, when we see CLT in the classroom, it's not just worksheets or filling in the blanks. It's about using the language in real ways, drawing from the real world and helping the learners practice what they'll actually need outside of the classroom. And that's what makes it so meaningful. Now, while there are a lot of benefits to communicative language teaching, there's also some challenges that can come up when you're actually using it in a classroom. So one big challenge is the balancing of fluency and accuracy. So CLT focuses on real communication, which is amazing, but sometimes that focus on just getting your message across can mean that grammar and correctness aren't getting the same attention. So students are using the language, but they might be reinforcing mistakes and not building that accuracy in the same way. Another issue is in a large or mixed level class. When the class is too big, it's hard to give everyone a chance to participate in a communicative activities. And if students are all at really different levels, it can be tough to pair them up or plan tasks that work for everyone. Not all students will have the same learning experience in that case. And there's also the challenge of limited resources. A lot of CLT activities work best when the teacher has access to authentic materials, so like videos, articles, or real life conversations, and sometimes even technology like projectors or devices. And not every classroom has that. So, and of course, there are diverse learning styles and needs. So, not all learners thrive in pair work or role plays. Some are more comfortable with structure or individual tasks. So, the teacher has to find a balance. Lastly, a really important thing is the teacher's own comfort level. Not every teacher has been trained in CLT, so if someone use more traditional methods, they might not feel as confident running these kinds of open, flexible, student-centered activities. And that can make it a little intimidating to try CLT, even if they see the value in it. Overall, thank you for watching this video. I hope it gave you a clearer picture of communicative competence and the CLT approach, and how they really come alive in the classroom for both the language learners and the teachers. I also hope it showed how these approaches can make the language learning experience more meaningful and effective for students. Thank you. Goodbye.